Hey, in case you missed it, I am streaming on twitch.tv/happyheartlosed and I am a streamer. Please come join us, thank you. It's been a rough past few weeks for me. Not only have I become a weirdo again, I have also failed to do much of anything that has value or meaning. I have responsibilities that I am neglecting, and this is generally unpleasant. So to counter my unproductivity, I'm making a video about productivity, and maybe this is where my salvation lies. Back in a time where I was somewhat productive, I would mostly only exist within that cycle of productivity best described by Drew Gooden.
I know for me it's a bit of a cycle. Like generally my best creative efforts come when I'm a little down on myself, like maybe my last video didn't do very well, or I just don't feel very funny right now. So suddenly I have an urge to prove to people, no, I am funny, so I work even harder. I'm inspired to stay up all night editing something. And oftentimes that extra effort leads to a video that is well received, and I get all that great positive feedback again, and I start to buy into it and feel really good about myself, and then I suddenly lose that desire to work as hard, and I just play video games for like 4 days straight until I feel like shit about myself again, and the cycle continues.
I remember watching this video for the first time, and I was really impressed at how cleanly and concisely this young boy described my own struggles with productivity. The way I would describe it is, it's just this never-ending up-down cycle where, when I'm not productive, I feel guilty, which makes me be productive, which makes me feel proud, which makes me so complacent that I stop being productive, which makes me feel guilty, and on forever and ever. Sometimes different phases of the cycle last for different amounts of time, but the basic structure remains. What we immediately start to think about is how we can hack this cycle. What if we can just entirely do away with the phase of complacency, which leads to the lack of productivity? We would then be productive all the time, wouldn't we? Of course, it's not going to be as easy as it sounds. When I was first coming to realize how this cycle worked, I tried to counteract it cognitively. By recognizing how the cycle worked, maybe I would not fall victim to it. I began to tell myself things like, after I get something done, I will feel good about myself and therefore feel no pressure to keep doing stuff. Don't fall for that bait. Don't stop. Keep working so you don't get complacent and lazy. Did that help me? Maybe, maybe not. The fact that I don't know is pretty telling, I think. I can only recall a few times in my whole life where my productivity was very powerful, and I was very strong, and I was perhaps the best human on the planet for a while. The most recent case of this was between April and June of this year. I was working on videos at never-before-seen rates, I was working out every day, I was doing a lot of baking, I somehow managed to survive my stats course. Boy, do I look back on those times in envy. Unfortunately, quarantine has really hit me hard. But before I talk about quarantine, let's talk about how I was able to do things. I think the biggest factor in my productivity was the pressure I felt and imposed on myself. At the beginning of April, when I'd announced that I would be returning to YouTube officially, I told myself that I had to go hard. That semester was probably my best chance to turn YouTube into a real career, and that would be a very grand opportunity, so I had to make it count. I also had a lot of uncertainty. What if I get burnt out really fast again and quit? What if I'm not successful? What if I'm not good at making videos anymore? What if I'm not funny anymore? I never have been, so that's actually not a problem. Because of these pressures though, I churned out a ton of videos giving it my all so I could prove to myself as fast as possible that I could make this work. I think it did work out and that effort was worth it. After I regained this success and those uncertainties I had were put to rest, I could afford to get complacent again. And so I did. My drive to succeed was diminished, hence the lack of productivity beginning to seep in, but I've already told you about this. Let's refocus on what I talked about with pressure. I think it is a truth that a great deal of pressure can light a fire under you in some sort of way, and make you productive in ways you have never known yourself to be. Just think about the opposite scenario. You know what a rich person says? I don't have to work, I'm not going to work. You know what working class citizen says? I have to work, or I will not be able to provide for my family, I am going to work. This is a similar concept. So is the way to become productive just to be under a lot of pressure? That sounds unhealthy and bad for your heart. But it works, as far as I can tell at least. It probably has its limitations, like you can't be under constant heavy pressure your whole life in order to be productive. I think you will lose many decades off your life that way. But in general, in small doses, pressure seems to be a strong motivation. Maybe we can reverse engineer this. If ever you are in stressful times, maybe don't look at it only as a nuisance or some pain. Try to see it as a blessing in disguise. Also a blessing in the skies. Go skydiving. That answer is not super satisfying to me, but it is even less satisfying if you're already living the good life without any pressures. If you are a prosperous, happy individual, then what and where is your motivation to be creative and do work and make accomplishments? My answer to this is weak and weird, but it is the best I can come up with, and it is the method I used. First, I'm going to use an analogy from VALORANT, a video game. Say I am playing Sage. The fact that I am playing Sage is not relevant, but I do play her, so this is a realistic analogy now. Say I have 9,000 credits. That's the maximum amount of money I can have. Say my Reyna has 0 credits. She is bottom fragging, and she's a weirdo.
Need a drop, need a drop, need a drop.
Oh, you want the op? Take it. We'll just have to bury them under their transgressions, I guess. So say I buy this operator weapon for my Reyna, and I bought it for her. Oh, that's it! That's how you become productive! But the standalone analogy doesn't make sense and you're confused. And that makes sense because my analogy is not analogous to the actual method I use. But I wanted to talk about this anyways because I think it is so funny and Lem is really bad at Reyna. So this is based on a true story. Gee, Lem is so bad at Reyna. Goshies gollies. So here is the real method. I used to be productive when I am living this good life with no pressures, and I am a complacent, lazy person. The method? I look at the world. I see that there is a lot of badness and suffering here, and because I myself am not experiencing much of this badness and suffering, I have to use my good opportunity here to lessen some of this suffering. This is an empathy moment. I have to get to work and create stuff that will make other people happy. And remember that I don't have all that much time, even though I got all the time in the world and for now I'm just chilling. Life is short, as they say, and Yuzu is even shorter. So if I don't do this, if I don't get to work, if I'm just perma-lazy instead, then I am wasting the goods and the blessings that I have at my disposal. I must feel that I have an obligation to share wealth in a sense. Here's the op Reyna. That's how a fella can perhaps improve their productivity through changing one's cognitions, but that's all I know. Now instead, let's talk about safeguarding against the enemy. How might it be possible that one's productivity can get worse? Let me name the ways. First, let's bring up what I just mentioned earlier. If there is some great pressure on you and that has been your motivation to be productive, your productivity can falter when that pressure is removed. I hope that is sensible enough. Be conscious then of how much pressure and stress you feel, and if that pressure is starting to lessen, pay attention to your productivity. While as for other pitfalls, notice that the internet exists. If all the natural struggles with productivity were not enough by themselves, we have the internet and social media here to distract us and cause us immense procrastination and ruin our lives further. In making this video, I got distracted when my friend sent me this lesbian test by illnessquiz.com. Apparently, I am lesbian. I am lesbian. Level high. High level lesbian, 75%. I think this is satirical, but I can't be sure. In the making of all my videos actually, I tend to get distracted by stuff like this, and it'll take me like 4 or 5 times as long as it should for me to produce the video. Even when I'm trying my hardest not to get distracted, my video editing work requires that I be on the computer here, and I gotta be sitting right beside this demon of temptation that is the internet. And sometimes I'm forced to search up some meme or something that I'm going to put in the video, and that draws me right in. I'll go down the internet rabbit hole for another half hour before emerging. And it gets worse when I'm failing to resist temptation. I'll just be doing all this incessant, unnecessary, and random clicking around of Discord and Twitter. Twitter ruined my life, by the way. I'll just scroll endlessly and waste all my time, and hours are passing that I never even knew about. Twitter is so full of hatred too, that it is bringing me down. Twitter hates people, and Twitter hates buildings, and Twitter hates Reddit. Twitter hates itself. I should stop using the app, for in turn, I have now begun to hate Twitter. Anyways, being productive is mostly impossible. That's the conclusion I have reached. I'm mostly venting here if you haven't realized, but I hope what I say is also in some way helpful to you folk who are listening intently and lovingly. And to close off, I want to tease a topic that I want to discuss in a video for the near future. That is, the people who seem to defy these normal human limitations. People who are endlessly productive, against all odds. People who have incredible, unbelievable work ethic that you could not even fathom having yourself. I'll bet you can name a few people you know of, personally, who are like this, and if not, then you've probably heard about celebrities or historical figures and the likes who have these desirable traits. Well, that's it, that's the teaser. I'm not gonna say more, that's for some future video, and ouch, how do I get off this? What is mid-ramp? What is mid-ramp? What is mid-ramp? Yo! Help! Oh! Bro! Bro! Oh no!